Yep.
Alrighty, folks. It's recording to our YouTube channel, so we always do that every month for the folks who can't make it. So let's see. Let me also, yeah. So before I do that, so I won't see it and hear it and double back. All right, everybody, welcome to our November meeting. November meeting of the Grand Strand Astronomers. So finally, we got a little bit of clear skies, but not quite. We had one good observing month there, and you know, in the fall. Was hoping for more. Hopefully, we'll have good luck here in about 2 weeks. Um, so, just to get started, just to remind everybody of the upcoming events. Um, and I'll need to look just to make sure I know. Uh, we've got a dark sky observing session on December 9th at Hampton State Park. It's just south of Georgetown.
Mm-hmm.
So, assuming the weather's good, right? So that's it. Actually, well, it's actually a week from Saturday. So that coincides with the best phase of the moon. I know we've got a December meeting on December 28th. I'm going to make that one pretty casual because I know some people might be out of town. I guess there was the first question I was going to ask everybody, and I'll send it out via email as well, is December 13th. It's a Wednesday, so it's a school night. Um, December 13th, there's the Geminids meteor shower, and the moon phase is actually pretty conducive to seeing things. And I was going to canvass to see if anybody was would wanted to go out to Hampton. I know it's a bit of a drive, um, but if people will, I'll send some out via email. I can go ahead and set something up with them. Um, I can go, but I can't stay super late because I do have to work the next day. So, but we can see if people are interested, right?
Sure.
It might be a good opportunity to set up a camera with a wide field lens and get some meteors. If the weather's good. So it's not something we have to do, but if anybody's interested, we could set it up with the folks down there.
Yeah, I'd like to do that. That would be nice.
So I mean, hopefully the weather's good, right? We haven't had the best luck this year
Mm.
with weather. So that was the first thing. I guess the other thing I kind of wanted to talk about business wise up front was the 2024 schedule. I know I'd sent some of you the potential observing schedule for 2024. And sorry, my mouse is misbehaving a little here. Um, so in the past, what we had done is we kind of looked at the schedule for the year. And then, like, if maybe the second Saturday was the best moon conditions, right? Then we'd say, okay, we'll do the observing always on the second Saturday, and then for that year, and then we do maybe the meeting on the fourth Thursday, right? And we did that because some people wanted it for convenience. And looking at the 2024 schedule, generally the second Saturday is pretty good. It is well, actually ideal in some cases, but not always. So I guess I was going to ask, do we just want to forget about maintaining, like always being the second Saturday and just schedule a year in advance and just say, okay, here's the best Saturday of every month, or basically the Saturday closest to the new moon all through 2024, and just put observing on those dates. And we can just live with it not being the second, or not always maybe being the second Saturday of the month. So I guess I kind of wanted to see how people felt about that.
I'm
Is
all
it
right with that.
Yeah.
so rather than have a regular, just I mean, obviously we publish all the dates a year in advance.
Yeah.
So it's not a surprise. Like you're not going to get an email on Friday going, "Hey, we're going out tomorrow," right? So
Yeah. Yeah. Schedule the best time.
Okay, because that may also move the indoor meeting, this meeting around a bit. But again, we schedule it. We'll produce a schedule for the entire year.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have some good um we have some good moon conditions like on the Saturdays. Like, one of them's like 3.9% moon,
Mm-hmm.
0.2% moon, 1.9% moon for the first 3 months. That's the first 3 months. So actually, if we get some good weather here in the first 3 winter months, we'll have some good conditions. So yeah, hopefully we get some good weather, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if everybody's into that, that's great. I'd also like to thank Gerald and everybody that came out for our thing at Brook Green Gardens.
Oh,
We
yeah.
had a bunch of scouts out at Brook Green Gardens, and we took them through the planetarium, and then we took them. Then right when they came out of the planetarium, we sent them out the back door and sent them to Gerald and Brian, and I think Megan Eski was there. And they basically showed them some views through the telescope. We had a really good night. This is the Saturday before Thanksgiving, and had a really good night, and everybody was really excited about it and asking us to do more. So, Gerald, I don't know if you want to say anything more about it.
Well, it was it was a good night. We had a lot of interest. I was telling Ian on the phone the other day that a fella I knew from the bank, he stopped by. I didn't know I was there. I didn't know he was coming, and he got really interested in just my the telescopes we had out there and what all they would do. And I saw him the other day, and he said the kids talked about that for the next 2 days. I mean, so it was pretty impactful to them. So, and we just showed them Jupiter and, the moon. And I think Brian had some nebulas going on his scope. He had a, pretty fancy scope going. So it was good. A lot of interest, a lot of interaction from the kids.
Yeah, Brian had his camera out there.
Yeah.
His
Yeah. He actually
Z1.
had it on his computer screen.
Yeah, and was showing on the computer screen. So that was kind of cool. Um, so but it went really well, and the good news is that's one of the first evening educational events that Brook Green has done. They wanted to do a trial run, and it got a really great reception and went really well. So I think we'll probably be able to do some more stuff down there. Not everything has to be that far south in the Grand Strand, all our public events. But if anybody knows any other locations where we can kind of hook up some public observing, that would be great. So it's always nice to get
Yeah, I
people
think
into
that would be helpful to a lot of us folks in Myrtle Beach, having a alternative site.
Yeah.
Would Myrtle Beach State Park be an option? Do they?
Yeah, we actually had our first ever event there, and it was well received. And
Hello, Tim.
huh?
I said hello,
Oh,
Tim.
hello. My gosh, what a day this has been.
Oh, hey,
Continue.
Tim.
Continue.
But
We did our first event there in conjunction with Ocean Bay Middle, and that is my fault. I need to take an action to follow up on that, because we had talked about doing something with them when we created our first event, but unfortunately we just basically put together a club right before the plague hit, and so that kind of wiped everything out for almost 2 years. So I need to get back in touch with them. It actually was pretty good from a standpoint of you could park near your scope, right? Because we all
Mm-hmm.
parked right in that little circle by the whatever the shelters, and it was a pretty good view of the sky. And so actually it was pretty good. Let me take a note to talk to one of the rangers out there if they're still there, unless someone else wants to take that on, which is fine. So other than Myrtle Beach State Park, is there any other suggestions or ideas for
Chris,
observing?
Chris, didn't you have a couple of places you were thinking of up in the north of Myrtle Beach?
You're on mute. Oh, there you
Yeah, again.
go.
I've got a buddy that's got a piece of land just outside Conway, and he said that
Okay.
we can come around there from the club and use it as a dark sky site if we wanted.
Yeah, I remember you saying that one time. Think, yeah.
Yeah, he's quite happy for us to use that.
Have you been out there?
Yeah. I mean, it's not Hampton, but it's still pretty dark.
Okay.
Yeah, and Play Card has an open invitation to us anytime we want to go up there. Yeah,
We should probably see if they want to do a session out there again.
yeah, and it's not super dark. I mean, it's darker than Myrtle Beach. It's not nearly as dark as Hampton.
But it'd
But
be good for a public observing, and then it's a little follow-up.
it's good public observing. Yeah, it's far enough out that you can. I mean, you can see the Milky Way
Well, that's,
in summer. Yeah,
far better than, what you see from downtown Conway or downtown Myrtle Beach.
right.
And the only problem I found with that was it's close to a quite a busy road there. So you've got
Yeah,
car headlights.
there's a road right
Yeah.
there. And
Just
there's
for your night
also
vision.
they also have like a street lamp, but you can kind of get away from that. But it's probably not good for imaging. But
Sounds like it's
maybe
better. It sounds like Play Card's better for like a public observing session.
yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Well, the other thing I was going to mention is just kind of review some of the upcoming stuff in the sky. So we for 2024, other than the Geminids coming up, I have a couple of things going on. Looks like we have some good opportunities to see Mercury. So it's some good elongations to see Mercury. And if you haven't done that, it's actually pretty cool. It's pretty easy to see with the naked eye, even from like Myrtle Beach, right? It's actually pink. It shows up pink. I was surprised the first time I went out and looked at it. It's pretty amazing that you can see it so easily at elongation. So I think that's near the end of March 24th, I think.
Is it like Venus? Like when you look at Venus, I mean, Venus is so bright you really can't see anything. I hadn't looked at Mercury obviously, but is it similar and it's just looks like a bright star?
Looks like bright. In fact, it's more fun to just look at it spot it with your naked eye.
Okay.
And like I said, it's surprisingly bright. It's when it's at elongation like this, it's surprisingly bright in the sky. But it's not really something you want to look at with a telescope because you're just not going to see any detail on it. So yeah, it is like Mercury in that or Venus in that respect. But it's just kind of cool to say you saw it, right?
Yeah.
So you can tick it off your list, right?
It should go through phases like Venus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Because it's an inferior planet, yeah. Goes through a complete set of phases. So so it looks yeah, so the other thing, of course, there is a lunar eclipse on March 25th, but it's a penumbral eclipse. So it's not incredibly dark. So, unfortunately, the deepest part is like 3 a.m. in the morning, right? So ordinarily that'd be pretty good photography wise, but unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be that dark. You're not going to get the deep red, which is a shame, right? And of course, there's the solar eclipse we were talking about before I think we started recording, right? On April. I haven't planned anything here locally for the solar eclipse. If someone wants to, they can. But I think a lot of us will be traveling for it to try to see it somewhere else. So that's why I really didn't plan any kind of public event or anything. So even though our last partial solar eclipse public event, well, we got a little bit lucky, but the weather was pretty bad. I guess the next big thing, at least for me, the next big thing is going to be Mars, right? In spring of 2025. I know that's really not 2024, but so we got another opposition of Mars coming up. It's kind of funny that the way this works is they're actually this one's kind of funky because it's much smaller because Mars is farther away. It's much smaller than really the last three, right? 2018 was the biggest, almost 25 arc seconds across, right? And then 22 in 2020, and then 17 in 2022, right? In last December. And this is only going to be like 14 and a half. But the other difference is the declination's really high, plus 25, right? So that means that you're going to get, a much, much better, you won't be looking through all the muck down low, right? So it's actually about the highest declination we're going to have, well, in like 20 years either side, right? So maybe there'll be some good opportunities to photograph. So that's going to be, that's good. That's in just the very beginning of 2025. So put that in your calendar. Maybe we'll get some good imaging. So that's roughly some of the stuff that's coming up. Yeah, so I'm sorry I didn't prepare more for tonight. I actually was working on a speaker, but they couldn't make it, so I basically had to call an audible here and come up with some other stuff. So, but we were talking before. This is probably a good idea. We were talking before. That we started recording. Some of us that came on early about maybe some things we could do. And I know one thing we had to do, one thing that I had talked about doing was doing a collimation workshop. So we could do some collimation and, play around with a few of the tools. I'm going to try to get that going for the spring. Our Saturday is probably best for everybody for something like that.
Yeah.
I see a lot of nodding heads.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing that came up, and it's some stuff on imaging, right? Maybe sitting together and working through some processing or whatever. I know not everybody images, but does it make sense to start with something like planetary or?
I think we did
You did a pretty good one though already, right?
yeah, we did something with Jupiter, I think, last year. Yeah, I don't mind going over I don't know, something easy like the Orion Nebula, or I've already got data on it that I can use.
Okay, so maybe like the Orion Nebula. Would you suggest also doing that on a Saturday?
We can do that any time, but yeah, Saturday if you want.
Just trying to figure when the best time for people is, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I know some folks are retired, so they have a lot more flexibility in schedule.
Excuse me, can you guys see me?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, Tim.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Uh, so, yeah. So I know some people have more flexibility, and than others. So, yeah. So those are some of the things I want to try to do in the coming year, and we can do that. Now, also, we had an email chain going around. I'm sure most of you have seen about getting together actually face to face and trying to find a date in January to do that.
Mhm.
So I know Megan was, I think, pushing that, which is good, which I encouraged her to do, by the way, to get that thread going. So I think that'd be a lot of fun to actually see people three-dimensionally. So rather than everybody looking kind of flat. So we have that as well.
Thank you for moving that to January.
Yeah, December is just gets kind of crazy for everybody,
Mhm.
Plus, a lot of people travel, go see family and things, So, and I get that,
Yeah, I'm hoping Santa Claus brings me a new back.
A new
Yeah,
back.
Tim. Yeah, I understand you're having some challenges there. Sorry about that. Uh, Hopefully, the New Year's finds you feeling a lot better.
I hope
So.
so.
So we had a really good night out there at Hampton. The one night we got out, not of course not in November, but in I guess it was October that we got out.
It was actually September, I think.
It was actually September. Okay, September when
Yeah.
we got out. It's all a blur. We actually had a really good night, and we had a lot of people come out, and so it was so I probably had, what do you think, Gerald? Maybe 20?
20 people at least. Yeah.
Yeah, at least. So some folks from Charleston and some folks folks from our area, and it was a really nice night.
the scene was really good too.
Yeah, the seeing was outstanding. So unfortunately we had a really bad run of weather this year. Nobody's fault, but the I know we had a really good night in the spring and a really good night in the fall, and when it's good, it's really good out there. So
Mhm.
but unfortunately the rainy weather got us most of the time. So we'll carry on with Hampton. They're still more than willing to work with us. One other thing about that, Hampton, and willing to work with us, and I wanted to bring it up with a club before I, made some kind of executive decision, is that, as you may know, they were trying to get dark sky status with, I guess, Dark Skies Unlimited. It's no longer IDA, the organization, right? That's proven to be really difficult because of some of the requirements that the IDA is throwing on them. And the state really doesn't feel like having to spend a lot of money or to do that, particularly the requirement that's in order to be less vague. The requirement that's giving trouble is you got to be able to, people have to be able to access the site all the time.
Mm.
Unfortunately, it's a state archaeological site and a historic site. They can't do that. Now, they are perfectly willing for us to set up as many events as we want out there. That's not a problem. And they're perfectly willing to follow all the dark sky recommendations. Unfortunately, without having to build this separate area and put a gate on it with a code and setting it all up and they have to work to maintain it, and they'd have to get some help from us and from low country stargazers to maintain it, and the state would have to spend money, and they're just like, why are we doing this? So um, they kind of made the decision, and I don't blame them, that they still want to do astronomy events. They're still going to follow all the dark sky stuff and push the dark sky stuff, but they just can't apply. They can't just apply if they're going to have those kind of restrictions. I know there's been, for any of you that have been to the Low Country Stargazers, the Charleston's Club meeting, they've talked about this. And so what they're thinking of doing, the Low Country Stargazers, is just basically creating like some kind of dark sky designation for coastal South Carolina. And just saying, so they can just say, Low Country Stargazers recognizes these dark sky sites, and they want to do it for any place that is promoting dark sky. If a city passes an ordinance or something, lighting ordinance, they can do that.
If before we go any further, if we look for some loopholes there, I'm kind of wired for looking for loopholes, right? So
Uh-huh.
if we fence off an area, 3 yards by 3 yards, and put a lock on there and say it's public land,
Well, that's a good question. I don't know. And part of it is the fact that all this IDA stuff is worked through these local reps. And it depends who, how strict they want to be.
yeah. So 3 yards, a yard by a yard is a bit ridiculous. But if you had like a 5 yard by 5 yard area that you could fit technically 3 telescopes in there,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good question. It's a really good question, Chris. And I don't know. I don't know if they've had that. I don't know if they've done that discussion. We are trying to work some back channels. Like some of us do have connections back through other groups and organizations to Dark Sky Unlimited to push back on them. With the rationale that, look, if someone's willing to put in all the lighting, do all the dark sky stuff, host astronomy events, that should be enough. Right? 24/7 access is not necessarily related to being dark sky, right? Um, I think it should be enough, right? Like, what are you trying to prove? What are you trying to promote, right? What's your goal, right? If you're trying to promote being to showing off the night skies and, spreading the word about, doing proper lighting and all that kind of stuff. I think that should be enough, right? Even if you don't get their gold status, but no one's talking about that, right? Just even if it's the minimum status, right? But it's a good question, Chris. I don't know.
if you
One
give me
thing
a
is, I
copy
think,
of the rules, I'll have a look at them. So I work with contracts for a living. I'm always
yeah,
looking for loopholes in them.
unfortunately, I'm not sure it's that well structured. A
Yeah,
lot of it is these local reps or these local people that you have to go through. And they seem to be applying liberal. I'm not saying no, by the way,
yeah.
applying, their own version of how they do it, and they just change to another one, right?
Yeah, there's no harm in trying though.
No, no, no. I can certainly take a note.
Is there any way we could find somebody who has some land, say north of Georgetown, that we can contact and say, hey, can we borrow your gigantic lot you're not using for telescopes?
Yeah, it would be great. If anybody knows any contacts, I don't know about that new wildlife center on 701. What is it, Yawkey or whatever? Um, there's a oh rats. There was a plant. There was an old plantation out there that I guess was given to the federal government or I think the federal government, and they married it with some other wildlife preserve out there, and they opened an education center. Maybe it's not called Yawkey. Um, uh, it just okay. I think it's the village group that manages it.
Are you talking about a school for very young children?
Do what?
Is that the school for very young children?
I don't think so. You think that's the village group? I think you're talking about the after school programs, but I thought they managed this place. Maybe it's not the village group. Um, uh, um, maybe it's the Plantersville. it's all fairly new, right? Um, maybe it's planner. I don't know how closer that is, right? It would be off 701. It wouldn't be as far as um well heck, I'd have to look it up again. Um
Anybody familiar with anything on 905, Route 905?
Mm-mm.
It's on the way to Placard, but you know, it's not as far. I'm just throwing out ideas.
okay, it's Hasty Point Plantation is the one the federal government bought. So the federal government bought this Hasty Point Plantation. And it's going to become part of the Waccamaw National Wildlife Refuge, or is part of it. So where is Hasty Point? Might be a little closer. Don't know how much closer. But again, it's now official U.S. federal property, no longer privately owned, right? And I think it's over 1,000 acres. And I have no idea. I've never been out there, right?
Mm.
But they want to do it as an ecotourism hub, right? And they want to make it into a public recreation area that's accessible by water or land, right? Maybe it's the Open Space Institute. And it's supposed to be for public use, right? So I don't know. Let's see, where is it? Where is it located? It's on the PD River. All right, so it's about it's a little farther north than Brookgreen Gardens, but just on the other side of the river. Both rivers, actually.
That
So
sounds awfully close to Sandy Island.
it is actually awfully close to Sandy Island. As a matter of fact, I was just about to say that, right? So that's where the Hasty Point Plantation is, right? So I don't know if that's a easier drive for some folks.
Brook Green's not bad. It's about a 40-minute hour drive, depending on traffic.
How's that compared to like Hampton?
Well, Hampton's an hour and a half drive from me. So
Yeah,
Okay.
same.
So you'd probably pick up some time.
yes.
Thing is-
That'd be one thing. I don't know what I don't know what state that's in right now. Although they've now had 2 years since the acquisition, so I think they've hired some folks. I've never talked to them. We could try talking to them and try something out there. It might, if it saves people a half hour, 45 minutes, you know.
Yeah, you're gonna have to go down the 701 to get there, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That would be the fastest way coming from the north. Yeah, you'd have to go down 701 to Plantersville and cut over like Plantersville Road. So that means going up to Conway, I guess, because I'm not sure there's too many ways across the river.
Mm-mm.
If there was a way across the river, it would be really nice.
I'm looking at the map here. I don't see anything that goes across.
See you later.
You go across at Georgetown, or I think at
Yeah, Georgetown, you can go down and come up, but then you got to go south to go north. So I don't know.
and then I think you got to go to Conway.
Yeah, Conway's going to be easier for myself, Tim, and Gerald.
Yeah, and then 701's a pretty easy ride through there. But it's just an idea. I don't know of any other places, but I'm open to other places. If anybody knows somebody that has some land or can find somebody that has some land.
I've got a friend who's got some land just west of Georgetown, but there's a lot of trees there.
Hmm.
I'll have a word with him.
So certainly open to other ideas for sites, right?
It should be a homework assignment for all of us.
Yeah, I mean, so Hampton is a great site for observing, but I realize it's a long drive for a number of folks. That it's a haul.
It's been worth it the times that are, that it's the sky's clear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly is. They have in the past, they have like when we did when we talked about Messier Marathon, which unfortunately we had to cancel, which we can look at doing one of those again. That's something I didn't mention. If anybody wants to try to do the Messier Marathon, those are fun, by the way.
Yeah.
We could try that again. It'll be in March, excuse me. And it looks like this time would be March 9th, which actually is early enough and gives you a shot at most of them. So, they did last year they said they let us stay out on the field, right?
Yeah. Stay overnight.
Yeah. If you brought a camper or want to sleep in your car or whatever. We could, I mean, obviously you can't just like build fires and stuff like that, but for a
Yeah. I
night.
actually bought a tent for that last year. I was all set.
Yeah. Or just pitch a tent. So I guess we could see if, we could do that on more than just that one occasion, right? If someone wants to stay out observing and sleep in your car, you may not want to do it in January, but
No.
if you're talking about March or April, um, I mean, you can observe and then catch a little sleep in the car and then drive home if you want. We could ask about that. the one thing about Hampton is they've been very flexible with us and willing to work with us. As long as they kind of know what's happening, right? So we've kind of proven ourselves.
I got an email from a gentleman here in Myrtle Beach. Actually, he got my telephone number off of QRZ because he's also a ham operator, and he's a astronomer. He said he's like a lot of people. It's too far for me to travel. He's retired, and he said I'd love to go down there, but I can't. I can probably go down, but I won't be able to travel back. I'll be falling asleep. So I'm gonna try and get him to join anyway.
I understand, and if we can come up with an alternate site somewhere up there that we can use on those dark nights as well, be all for it. I just don't know what that is, right?
Mm.
If anybody can identify something that would be promising.
Are there any? Does anybody know where any astronomers up in Florence that may know a place? Places to go.
That's pretty far up the road.
That's far too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's about an hour's drive, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 90 minutes, I think, for
So,
us.
Yeah.
I mean, you could contact some of the people at, what's her name up there at Francis Marion? The astronomer, runs planetarium, comes down here a lot to this area to do talks.
Oh.
Jeanette Myers, maybe? Somebody want to Google that? Jeanette Myers?
I would, but I'm still putting the finishing touches on the newsletter.
Yeah, I owe you, Tim. I've been
You've been a bad boy.
working since 4 a.m. this morning. Okay. I mean, I literally
I know.
finished
You're a
up
busy man.
and came right here. So I will do this tonight
No. Wait.
afterwards.
It's already been taken care of. We got a filler in there for you.
Okay, then that's fine. If somebody did the insights, we should probably just change it to officer insights or whatever.
Well, it's called what is it? What would we call it, Gerald?
Gerald picks up the slack. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thoughts from the editors.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. Awesome. I think
Hey,
it's
you're a
Jeanette,
professor. You're a very, very busy man.
I think it's Jeanette Myers. The only reason I say that, I think she's been doing this a long time, and she may know of some areas, between Florence and Myrtle Beach. I don't know her. I've not ever met her, but believe it or not, but let me see if I'm not getting my names.
Said if I can find her phone number, I'll give her a call. I'll be sitting around doing nothing for a couple of weeks anyway.
Well, yeah, she's on the Francis Marion University website, so I'm pretty sure she's the one. Teaching physics. It is. I think she did observing. I think she did a bunch of observing events too. Yeah, she's the director of the planetarium up there. So
All right.
yeah, she's on the web at Francis Marion University. So the only thing is she's been doing this a long time and in that area, so she may know some stuff, right? In terms of, she may say, oh yeah, there's some people, she knows a lot of people, right? Unfortunately,
Okay.
I don't know anything about the northern part of the area, right? For those of you that don't know, I live pretty far south. So, the good news is Hampton is not that far from me, but the bad news is I don't know anything about the northern areas, right? But yeah, it'd be great to have also a site that was closer for people up north as well, right?
Mm.
especially on nights that may be a little more iffy, right? But yeah, just it might be a little easier to do that, right? And we're big enough, we can probably support that, right? So it'll be great if someone could, yeah, come up with something. I mean, I'm not saying, maybe Dr. Myers can come up and let us know maybe some ideas of where to look, right? We can contact them. So, yeah, that's one of the big problems in living a large spread out area is unfortunately to get dark skies, it takes a little bit of a drive. So
Mm.
that's the unfortunate part about living somewhere.
Well, if I get in touch with her, I'm going to ask her if she would like to do a Zoom meeting and be a speaker.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll give that a try.
Yep. Always willing to extend that. Or if she wants to ever down here and wants to do a face-to-face, we can arrange something. It's Coastal Carolina. Always glad to do that too. So I'm sure some of our other colleagues would love to meet her as well. So whatever it takes. Whatever it takes to make the deal. So anybody buy any new Astro gear for Black Friday or Cyber Monday or
Yeah, I bought the C925. So I submitted an article, so you can read all about in the
Good.
newsletter.
A very good article. Pictures and everything.
I know CWO has some sales going and
Yeah, this was Celestron. And funny thing is, I placed the order, and then 2 days later they announced it went on sale. So I contacted them and said, "Hey, I don't even have this yet, and I see that it's gone on sale. It's a pretty good sale." And they wrote me back and said, "Yeah, we'll honor the sale price." So they refunded me.
Great.
oh, excellent.
Yeah, so Celestron has been
Nice.
really great to work with me on that.
I think that the C9.25 produces more consistent results on planetary imaging than the C11.
Oh yeah.
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 I think the C11 gets affected by bad seeing more.
Uh-huh. Well, if I do imaging, it would probably start off on planetary.
There's something special about the C925. There always has been, and everybody always says so. I remember years ago seeing something that it has to do with the way the lenses are figured. They're figured a little bit differently for the
Yeah.
925, and that a lot of people just say, "Oh, there's something special about it," and everybody I know that has one, loves it.
Yeah, the primary on most of your SET is the f2 mirror. On the C9.25, it's f2.2, so it holds its collimation better.
And that will matter a lot for planetary.
Yeah. So Chris actually talked me out of buying the C11. He didn't really talk me out of it. He just said, "Well, you might want to consider the 925." And after setting this up, I'm glad I did not get the 11. The 925 is big. So I mean, I can lift it in place. I can carry it around, but it's near the max of what I can physically lift.
Yeah.
So yours has the fork arms, is mounted in the fork arms.
It is a fork. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the whole fork assembly, I mean,
Right.
it came assembled as a fork, but you have to lift it up onto the base tripod.
Yes.
And so it's 60 pounds. So
yeah, that C11 fork assembly is quite the powerlifting challenge.
Yeah.
It really is. The C11 tube alone is reasonably heavy. So don't get me wrong, I love my C11. but at the same time, that's why a lot of times I drag the 8-inch C8 out, right? Because the C11 is, it's pretty heavy.
Yeah.
I hope Chris has taught you or even told you to go out and buy some wheels so you can just wheel it out of your garage in your driveway. That's what I do now, thanks to Chris.
Yeah. All right.
Have you seen those Harbor Freight dollies? They're little three-wheel things. They've got a hole in the middle. Your tripod fits perfectly into it. I just wheel mine out now.
Yeah, my only problem with that is I've got some gaps
Yeah.
and the wheels catch on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got to try and find something fairly level to get it across there.
Right. And that's the only challenge, right? I looked for some dollies that had larger wheels, but you really can't find any. And so yeah, I gotta figure that out.
Yeah, if I go through my left garage door, it slides straight out. But now that I've got the side by side in there, I'm having the same problem going out the other door. So I have to kind of just gently lift one of the wheels when I go over. It's funny, the front wheel when you're trying to, because of the angle of it, that catches. But when you get the rear two, the angle's better, so it kind of
It
slides
comes right,
across there
yeah.
easier.
So I've seen that as well. But it really is convenient to leave it set up, especially if you have a couple good nights in a row.
Yeah,
Then you can just wheel it out and wheel it back in, right?
yeah. I
So
what
leave
I
mine
do
on the
is
wheels as well.
what I do is I
Uh,
wheel mine out and then I place it where I want to place it. I take it off the wheels and I draw circles with a magic marker so I know where to put it next time.
Ah, nice.
yeah, some people do that and they, have little they make little markers or they make little spots so you can just set it right up and then,
Mhm.
you automatically like polar aligned, right? That's kind of nice. So yeah, I would recommend. Yeah, I like the wheels. The wheels are great.
Hmm.
I had
The
a
other-
JM. I still have a JMI dolly with the big pneumatic wheels.
Wow.
Hmm.
Someone actually gave it to me,
Hmm.
because he said I'm just not using it, and I can understand why, because it's pretty big. It extends pretty far past out the tripod,
Mhm.
and then it's got the wheels and it's got the big handle on it, and it's like it takes up a lot of space.
Yeah, I
What I
find
have
with
to do.
the sorry, go.
No, please go ahead.
The same I find with those wheels as well. Polar alignment's easy because all you have to do is leave it on the wheels and just move it. You're not having to twiddle the knobs to do it.
There's somebody in our lab built a wheeled platform for the telescopes, for the telescope we have. It doesn't take up much space. It's got big wheels. It's really pretty cool. I'll be up at the lab the first week of February. I'll get some pictures of it. He built it with some stuff that was, and I know what I should do? I should write an article on it, Tim. Thanks for.
Here you go.
He built it with stuff he got from Home Depot, and it's actually compact, works really, really well. And it's very, very stable. So I'll get some pictures of it.
Yeah.
It takes a little more, it's a little more effort than just buying the stuff from, Harbor Freight, right? The three things. But it's not like a lot of expensive parts. I think he put 4 wheels on it. But there's a little woodworking to do, and then just some parts that he could get it at like Home Depot. And it's
Hey, Chris,
amazingly safe.
doesn't these wheels have 3 holes where you can screw it into the bottom of a piece of wood or something like that? We could always drill holes, I guess, to mount it.
Or I'm not sure I understand your question.
The wheels that Chris and I are using right now, the Harbor Freight, I think they have 3 holes where you can screw it or bolt it up on the bottom of a piece of wood and make your platform out of those 3 wheels.
Gotcha.
You could, yeah.
Just need a design.
So the other thing I was looking at in terms of projects, right? I'm trying to look at projects for the winter break. Is a lot of people were talking about tripod spreaders being very effective at really helping stabilize your tripods. And apparently there was a company that was selling them, but no longer does. So some people were again buying some stuff at Home Depot and making tripod spreaders. Anybody ever tried anything like that?
Mhm.
Does anybody know does anybody know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I have a photograph, I think, of one that a person built out of wood, and it's lower on the tripod, which makes it more stable, and he has more holes for all his lenses and stuff.
Right. And so that the idea is that, like a lot of the tripods have the thing at the bottom, or the thing like a the little triangle shaped thing where you put eyepieces in that help
Mhm.
hold the legs apart, right? And then the tripod spreader, they call it a spreader, I don't know why. Actually, they sits lower down and it actually puts tension on. It actually pulls the legs together.
Hmm.
And a lot of people swear by the fact that it does really damp out the vibrations and make things work a lot better. If you go on cloudy nights, there's some threads. I can probably find some threads and send them out to everybody. Again, there was a company that was selling them, but apparently that company no longer is in business. I think that the fellow retired. But some people were actually building them themselves. Buying some it's basically like you buy some turnbuckles and you buy some things that go around your tripod legs and some turnbuckles and like a middle ring, and you can basically like set it up to where you can apply the tension, right?
Hmm.
I didn't know if anybody had tried that.
Nope.
So it's one of my little crafting projects I'm going to try to get done over the winter break.
Send pictures when you do it.
Well, yeah, I'll definitely send pictures of the one that the fellow built for our lab, right? Because it's a very clever design.
Hmm.
Because it like takes up the minimum amount of space, right? Like no more than your tripod would spread with the legs completely retracted. And you can roll it out, and then you can actually like drop the legs for stability. It's actually pretty clever.
Hmm.
And very, very stable. So I thought it was a really neat idea. It doesn't look that hard to build. I'm no woodworking champion, but it looks like, pretty much use a skill saw, right?
Yeah,
So sorry.
I still use a Dobsonian, and Orion at one time built a Dob dolly, and it was a triangle and with three wheels on it. And I've been trying to buy that thing, and it's no longer made. So
Hmm.
yeah, I bought the wheels and the stops. It had a stop that you screwed down, and it leveled it. So I bought those. I'm going to attempt to duplicate the Dobsonian dolly.
So it's an Orion.
Yeah, Orion makes it Dob dolly. They call it a Dob dolly. Well, they used to make it. It shows on their site, but it's no longer available.
Oh, I see that. Yeah. Not available.
Yeah.
That looks like something you could construct, though.
Yeah, like I said, I'm putting together the pieces to build it. So I'm gonna
It's a
try it.
triangle, three
Yeah.
wheels.
You're looking at it.
Yeah. And then the stabilizers.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'd like to try doing some crafting over the holidays and hopefully can craft up some parts and do some testing. Yeah, I was thinking about the TPI tripod spreader. But I don't think he's in business anymore.
If you need any help, I've got some woodworking kit at home.
All right.
Yeah, I got rid of most of my stuff when I moved.
I've got an
Um,
arc welder as well if any metal work needs doing.
Oh, really? Wow. So I kind of got the idea. Let me see if I can share screen for this TPI spreaders. I was looking for ways to sort of stabilize things a little bit, right? If you don't mind. I've seen this for years. I don't know, can everybody see the screen?
Mhm.
I've seen this for years. I had an old mount where somebody actually rigged up a chain here and you could like take a gallon of water and hang it from it,
Oh, okay.
right? And so the idea is the downward force helps, you know, basically stabilize the tripod, right? A lot of people do this with weights, and that's okay. But this is the tripod spreader. I know they call it a spreader, but like, so it's got the piece in the middle that like puts tension on the legs outward, and this actually puts tension inward, right? So to make the structure more stable.
Basically turnbuckles, is it not?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, like a lot of people made their own since this other company went out of business, but you can kind of see, yeah, there you go.
Your spreader there, that's the one that the guy made out of wood, put on his next door 8.
This one,
Yes.
yeah. So, and you can see this is it's just like one a metal ring, and then
Mhm.
couple of clips, right?
Yeah.
And then like some turnbuckles, and these look like almost like fence post clamps.
Wow.
I'm not sure how they stay. Maybe there's a clamp up here, but you see, you know, but supposedly everybody claims that they really help with the stability of the mount.
Hmm.
So the spreader pushes them out, and then the clamps pull the base in.
Yeah, they still call it a spreader. I don't know why.
Okay.
But it's not really spreading. It does the opposite, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this pushes outward, right? Or gives tension outward, right? And then this gives the bottom part gives tension inward, right? So the idea is, I guess it doesn't move, right? But a lot of people have put these on, and you know, um, and they seem to really like them. Here's yeah, like a bunch of these. Um, uh, you know, a lot of people kind of swear by using these products, right? Um, and it basically says that sorry, it's kind of losing my mind here a little bit. A lot of people say it really helps stabilize out, right? So I was wondering if it would help dampen the vibrations a little
Yeah.
bit, especially since it doesn't look hard to do, right? I noticed Celestron has it on their higher end mounts, like the CGXL and things like that. But you know, they don't have it on the lower end tripods. Do you have one of those on yours, Gerald?
It came, well, I don't want to get it out. It has a plate in the middle that puts the tension, and then but the bottom part pushes the legs out. So there's nothing pulling in. Everything is pushing out. And I guess the upper plate, kind of shoves up against the struts.
But does it have a lower setup?
It has a lower and an upper.
So they've added a lower, so they've added a lower to the other mounts as well now too, so. So that makes me think maybe it really does work, so. We'll have to try that. If anybody else has any cool crafting projects, make sure you write Tim an article for Tim. See, Tim, I'm shilling for you. I'm shilling for you, man.
Hey, thank you, sir. I need all the help I can get.
Yeah, so does anybody have anything else? Actually, you know what I think I'm gonna do? Unless anybody has anything else, I'm gonna stop the streaming part of the meeting. And so thanks everybody who's watching remotely.